Kyle here from All Media Reviews. Alright, well, I figured if I have enough time here, I will do the Rock Hall nominees reaction rant, per se. And I posted something in the blog about this, so 15 nominations, been over this many times before, still not enough. It's not enough. It's better, it's an improvement. That probably means that, again, probably 7 or 8 will get in, plus they'll have the musical excellence and early influence, those side categories. Let's just go with the good first. Well, first of all, my impression of this list of the 15 that did get nominated is it's kind of a weak list. I mean, these are all talented people that, yeah, most of them probably could be in the, I could understand would be getting worthy of the hall. Not all of them, but most of them. But there's not any sort of, you thought that the turnout and the buzz around the Rock Hall last year wasn't that big, and you had George Michael. There's no one on this list as sort of attention-grabbing as George Michael, even. But, alright, so Tribe Called Quest, Jane's Addiction, Ozzy Osbourne, Cher, Lenny Kravitz, Sade, Mary J. Blige, Eric B. and Rakim, Kool and the Gang, Sinead O'Connor, Peter Frampton, Dave Matthews Band, Foreigner, Oasis, and Mariah Carey. And, of course, the biggest issue, I'll repeat again, every year, and I don't know if, again, if I'm not doing it on YouTube, it'll just be in the blog, or just no monkeys. And you didn't have Winner, supposedly. Maybe next year, maybe they'll show up as a musical excellence somehow. But it's beating a dead horse. But monkeys need to be in. There's no excuse. No excuse. Nomination committee. So you could say they nominated Cher and Foreigner because Winner's gone, because they, and Cher doesn't even want to be in. I don't have a huge problem with them being in, but Foreigner, I looked up, someone was making this comment about album sales on Reddit. They had 80 million, the Monkees had 75 million. Styx and Boston and Supertramp and Toto. All those bands, to me, were better than Foreigner. I don't despise Foreigner. REO Speedwagon, I kind of looked at Foreigner, I like them a little bit more than both REO and Air Supply. Let's say Air Supply. Loverboy, that sort of AOR corporate rock. They had Ian McDonald as an original member for the late Ian McDonald was with King Crimson. But I saw them open for Styx. Styx was the headliner. Styx should be the one nominated, not Foreigner. But I don't know. I guess if bringing Foreigner gets in, finally gets Styx in, and Boston and Toto in, some of these other bands, Grand Funk Railroad, and the Guess Who, if Foreigner and Cher had burned bridges, and the Toto and the Guess Who also burned bridges with Winner. Well, Winner's not in there. Why are they not bringing those up? Toto had the Grammy #1 album in 1982, or 84 Grammys, or whatever. Toto 4. I don't know. I mean, Foreigner can't claim that at all. But Dave Matthews Band, they won the fan vote. I don't like them really per se, but I do respect them. They are a little bit of a progressive band in that they're very much focused. Some of their music is focused on musicianship, even though they're a jam band per se. They're good musicians, and I appreciate that in terms of this list. They're the second or third most progressive in terms of prog, in terms of musicianship, artists on this list. But the whole fan vote thing, they're kind of owed, and so I'm not. If they don't get in, I'm not going to be upset. But at the same time, it'll be a little bit of a boy who cried wolf thing. It's like damn me once, shame on you, shame on me, damn me twice, shame on you, or damn me once, shame on you, damn me twice, shame on me. So Lenny Kravitz, I think he deserves to be in. He sort of was the heir apparent and a little bit to Prince, and he has the resume for the most part. I think there are some people that probably should be going in ahead of him, but I mean from artists that were big in the 90s, it was actually late 80s and 90s. He's way more deserving than some people that are already in there to me. Sade, yeah, Sade belongs in. She's somewhat iconic, even though it's sort of a niche group with the sophistopop and the R&B. She's cool. She belongs. I mean, she's not as famous, but she's famous enough, and her and her band. Sade, actually, since my wife loves her, if I was voting, which I'm not voting, I don't think I'm going to do any of the fan voting this year, but she would be one of the ones I would vote for first, probably and foremost on this list. Mariah Carey, the same thing, and I think she's the closest thing to an icon like George Michael this year. In that sense, I think like Whitney, I think there's especially given the sort of second tier that this list comes across as very much so, I think she's almost a shoo-in. I don't know for sure, but I'd say she's the closest thing to a shoo-in. Ozzy Osbourne, he's in with Black Sabbath. He has somewhat of a resume that makes sense. I think there are other metal bands that should be getting in instead, but I can understand it's kind of absurd he wouldn't be in there because he had a career outside of Black Sabbath after Black Sabbath, a pretty significant career. I mean, Crazy Train's one of the 10 most well-known, hard rock or metal songs in history, really. And they put on in Randy Rhoads a few years ago, so it sort of connects to that. Jane's Addiction, I would love to see get in, but at the same time, I'm not sure how warranted, given how limited their catalog is. Now, they're, along with Dave Matthews Band, the closest band to prog, because 3 Days is basically a prog epic, a mini epic. I've been a Jane's Addiction fan for 30 years. They influenced a lot of bands, including Ocean Size. That's where they got their name. But they were nominated in 2017. I didn't think they were going to get in there. Then I think their odds are very, very slim, but I'd love to be surprised. Who else? Mary J. Blige, Eric B. and Rakim. Kool and the Gang. Kool and the Gang is way overdue. It's embarrassing. It's very much like the Spinners last year. I think it's even worse, almost in some ways. Because Kool and the Gang had so many eras where they were big in the 70s and the 80s. But better late than never, I guess. They would be on the top 2 or 3 that I would vote for if I was voting. Again, I don't think I'm going to vote because I'm sick of doing the fan vote. It doesn't mean enough at this point. Peter Frampton, he's known for the live album. I saw him live once, Frampton Comes Alive. That's really what most people know him for. In that sense, I don't really know why there are other legends that haven't been put in, But whatever, guitar gods. You don't have Al Di Meola, you don't have John McLaughlin, you don't have any of Steve Morris's bands. I guess Peter Frampton's a little more famous than them, but I don't hate him, but I don't have a longing to think he needs to be in the Hall of Fame, even though he played at the ceremony with Sheryl Crow last year. Oasis, they're famous among the 90s. It's one of the only... Oasis and like Jane's Addiction and Mariah Carey are like the only 90s acts in this. And Lenny, I guess. I know that the Gallagher brothers are very standoffish, so if they don't get in, I won't really be unhappy. I don't have as much issue with them as some, say, like the White Stripes or, Radiohead. So many of these bands I just don't care for at all. I just associate them when I was working at Best Buy in the 90s, and they played Wonderwall constantly. But, they can put them in, they'll put in Blur. I actually think Blur would be a better band to put in, but they're going to get the reunion stuff. They just, they're just giving the middle finger to the Rock Hall, even though they got nominated. They're just not very approachable people, even though Noel co-wrote one of the songs for the last Monkees album. But, and Sinead O'Connor, even though she worked with Peter Gabriel, a little prog connection there, she's really only known for those 2 things. For the one song, the Nothing Compares to the Prince cover, and tearing up the picture of the Pope on Saturday Night Live. And again, the whole thing right after she passes away, which didn't correlate with Yes and Chris Squire, or John Lord and Deep Purple, or George Michael even when he passed away, and how many other examples, and the 3 of the 4 Monkees. I honestly really hope she does not get in, because I just don't think it makes sense to put her in now. I'm not even sure it makes sense to really put her in. I don't think she really has the fame beyond knowing for those one or two things. She's about as famous as Milli Vanilli, even though she actually did her music, but that's about as famous. And Milli Vanilli's not going to be in the Rock Hall. I talked about Cher a little bit, and A Tribe Called Quest. I hope they get put. I hope they don't get in, but I hope they get put in the side category. So these people that keep on getting nominated multiple times ended up on the ballot, so someone else can take that spot. Again, they need 15 is more, but it's not enough. But have the ceremony in 2 days. Anyway. So that's my spin on it. I mean, there's so many names that are missing. The Monkees, Supertramp, inxs, Huey Lewis and the News, the Guess Who, Grand Funk Railroad, Phil Collins. If they're putting all these pop acts, and then you could put down if Cher gets in, Barbara Streisand and even Streisand and Olivia Newton-John. Changing the name again. Call it the Modern Popular Music Hall of Fame, because it's really modern. It's not stuff from ages, and there's no, people say there's no country. Yeah, well, there's no jazz either. Why isn't Herbie Hancock being nominated? Again, I mentioned Herbie Hancock last year. So, but that's my kind of spiel, rant, at least for now. Watch the balloting and the fan vote. I think Ozzy Osbourne and Ozzy Osbourne and Mariah Carey are going to be the two that will probably end up with most of the fan votes. And probably Dave Matthews. I don't know. But, I mean, again, Dave Matthews is the only example of a fan vote winner that did not get in. So if one of those three wins the fan vote, they should be getting in, just like last year with George Michael. But so what is your take on the Rock Hall? Is it a mediocre list like my impression? Is it kind of I don't think it's nondescript, but it feels kind of second-tier nondescript. It feels like they're making up for all these names that haven't been in. But, I mean, again, you go down the list. Why are some of these? Why are the prog bands still being ignored and all the metal bands still being ignored? Crimson, ELP, Jethro Tull. Jethro Tull seemed like an obvious one right after Yes got in. And why is Megadeth? Why is Motorhead? Why is Iron Maiden not on the ballot again? And Iron Maiden should be put in. Maybe they'll be put in the way Priest is again. So that's what it is. Prog and metal, and then maybe prog only will be designated to those side categories. They're not good enough, not famous enough for the voters to qualify as an actual performer list. Or maybe they could brainstorm a little bit more and maybe, let's say, instead of inducting 7 and nominating 15, nominate 25 or have it 20 and induct at least 10. And the side categories. You need to nominate more to clear the backlog. Then we can start talking about more of the 80s and 90s artists, especially the 90s artists that haven't been. And then 2000s, because we're going to have people like Drake on there, of course. So, and Kanye. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Please ring the notification bell, and give it a like, and we'll see you next time.